Well then, it's day 3 on this alien world. I've got a roof over my head, I've got some basic means of survival, and I've started making myself a little exploration mech, which I really need to get finished off, so I think today that is going to be my next port of call. I'm going to get that mech up and running to a decent degree, and then we're going to go and look for some of the resources that we desperately need. Right then, let's go and have a look at this mech that I was building. Okay, so last time we set it up with some walk controls, so it can walk forwards, and it can walk backwards, and all the legs can reset back to a default position. We can't do the drive controls yet because we desperately need more cobalt. So I think the next port of call is going to be to put some kind of body on this thing, and then take it out, go exploring, and hopefully try and find some cobalt and try and find some ice. So let's have a look at putting some bodywork on this mech then. Well then, for a start, I think I actually want to make the bottom of this body another row deeper. So I'm thinking I might extend the armour down a little bit and move these thrusters and then take out a load of these blocks in here so I can have a little bit more room to build inside him. So if I have those blocks there, I could put a couple of those wedge blocks along the bottom like so. Yeah, okay, I think that might work. Let's take these thrusters out and move them back in a minute.
Inventory full.
Of course it is. Okay, so something like that looks like it'll be pretty good. Now, in this gap here, I think I want to put a couple of beam blocks so we can still see the light poking out. And then I'm going to have to reposition where I'm picking up from, but I can do that in a minute. First things first, I think I'm going to get this bit welded up so it's a little bit more protected. And then we can do a little bit more shaping, maybe figuring out some other bits. Okay, that looks a little bit better, and a little bit more protected. Right, let's have a think about what we're going to do up the top. Right then, this top armour, what are we going to do about it? Let's just throw some ideas together and see what happens. We can have that like that. We won't go too much higher up. Just have a row of blocks leading back to there maybe. And what can we do back here? We might just have it like that for now. And then maybe have it taper back off a little bit. And do something like that. Oop. And then for the rest of it, maybe we'll come out like that. Have a little wedge shape at the side like that maybe. And then we're going to need something to protect the top of these rotors. So I might put a couple of slope blocks on top of here. And you know what, I might do something like that for the outer edge. Yeah, I'll give that a try, see what that looks like. Okay, so that's some kind of basic shape to the armour. I think I'll get this all welded up now, and then we'll have a look at maybe expanding it a little bit. And then I also need to figure out where I'm going to get some arms on this thing. Right then, and that is the rest of the bodywork done for the moment. I need to quickly go and recharge, and then we will figure out what we're going to do with these arms. Right then, so if I put out that block there, well, that one that's underneath it, then I swap it for a conveyor T-block, and then put a corner block in there. I could then put an ammo sorter in there. Then I can put another corner block in there. Then I could have a rotor and a hinge, which I will weld up before I go any further. Then I could add another rotor and another hinge, and then we'll weld those up too. Yes, that is all of the arm welded up, at least for now. Let's just put it into a rough position, and then we can work out what kind of gun we're going to put on the front of it. Okay, so I can put an air vent on there as a conveyor connection. I can put a Gatling gun on the end. And then I could have a reinforced conveyor corner there. Then I could have a reinforced T-block to connect them both up. Means I can then have an extra bit of storage. Oh, fell off. I can have an extra bit of storage on the end. And then we could have a camera with a gun right on the end of that. And then hopefully I can armour it up in some kind of fashion. Right. Let's weld these bits up, and then we'll build the other arm. There we go, that's some kind of arm weapon, or at least a basic one. Figure out how to armour it up in a little bit. I'll quickly make another arm, and then we will probably head out. I'm going to need to find some more parts. Right then, that is the last of the parts that I need for his other arm. We can armour them up in a little bit. Now, we do need to think about turret controllers, these arms, if I want them to be automated. And I can't remember what space I've got left inside here, so let's peel a couple of these blocks back again. Right, so I've got a decent little space under there. So in theory, I could fit 4 turret controllers underneath here. There we go, that will do. Let's get those welded up as well. Right then, that is all the turret controllers welded up. Let's just put some blocks back in here and fill this gap back up. So I think I might put some more beam blocks in there so we can see those turret controllers. And I've just realised that I've used my limited metal grids constructing these guns. So I'm going to have to deconstruct them so I can rebuild these thrusters. Right, that's all of our control thrusters rebuilt. I just need to rename these and then we can reprogram the walk controls again. Okay, so I've redone the walk controls, but it has just occurred to me I haven't placed a single gyroscope in here. So I'm going to have to peel all of this back again and figure out where to place some gyros. Alright, I think I'll stick a bunch of them down there to control this mech with. So we're going to have to get those welded up now. Right, that is the gyroscope sorted out. Just need to fill these back in again. Now, if we want to find any useful ores, we're probably going to need an ore detector. If I cut a hole out there, I stick an ore detector in here, we should be able to find some resources a little bit easier. There we go, there's an ore detector to help us find some resources. Right, let's finish off these last bits of armour. Right then, I have finished off at least a basic armour setup for now. Covered the body, I've covered the legs, and I've covered the pod at the back. So it is basically time to cut this thing down and go do a little bit of exploring and try and find these resources that we need. Okay then, let's detach this guy. And let's bring this piston back down. Now we can get rid of this. And we can give him a try. Oh yes, there's one extra thing that we need to build, that I've forgotten about. We need some extra external gyro control to stop him wobbling around when he's walking. Let's take these blocks out here. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to remove a block from here. We need to pop a rotor in there. And for this rotor, we need to set the limits to 0 on both ends, so it can't move around. And we also need to have shear inertia tensor on for the thing to work at all. And then on the end of that, we just need to place a gyroscope and put that on override. And obviously we run out of iron again. Right, back to the mining hole again. That is our override gyro built. It should be slightly less wobbly now. There we go, much nicer. Okay, so I have made some improvements to the walk cycle on this thing. It's a little bit quicker now. So, let's pick a direction and go looking for some resources. Let's go this way for now. Well, isn't that convenient? Not 5 feet from my base is a magnesium deposit, apparently. Right, let's make a note of that. And we've got some ice. Oh, that would be very handy. Right, I still need cobalt. That's the main one. Well, looks like we found some silver. That will come in quite useful. Still no sign of any cobalt though. I need that more than anything right now. Gold, good. Still not cobalt though. Well, may as well mark this location. And here we've got some magnesium, some nickel and some silicon. Might as well mark that too, but still no cobalt. And all I seem to have found around here is iron and gold. Right. We'll mark that down as well. Still no cobalt. And finally, some cobalt. In the lumpiest, bumpiest, most awkward place it could possibly be to mine. Oh well, at least we found some. That's a good start. Right, let's mark this location. Let's drill a little bit, and let's take some home with us. $50 meters below us. Alright. Fun. And finally, we have some cobalt. Fantastic. Alright, we'll gather up a nice little stash of this and we'll take it back to the base.
Inventory full.
Yes, thank you. And then we'll make some more upgrades to this spider mech.
Inventory full.
Right, we'll take one last little haul of cobalt. We'll head back to the base now. And then, fantastic, we are back at the base and we have found ourselves some cobalt. Right, let's get that in the refinery. Awesome, we have some cobalt being produced. Right, I'm going to make a bunch of metal grids right now, just so we've got some in production. Right then, now that all that is refining away, we need to get this guy back on the building platform and then make a few more improvements to him. Now I can finally build his drive control system so he'll be a little bit quicker while we're exploring around. So, to reattach him back up, hopefully, we can just put another rotor part on there. That'll do for now. And then we just need to lift that rotor up, and we might need to squeeze him over a little bit. There we go, that'll do. He is attached now. Right, there's a few things I want to redesign. I want to redesign quite a bit of this rear pod because I want him to be able to connect up to something. And I think sticking a connector on the back is probably going to be the best way to do it. So, first things first, let's grind this back down and rebuild a few things. So, what I was thinking of doing instead is having the battery on the bottom and then having a hydrogen engine at the back. With a small connector on the end of that. I can also put a reserve battery there just in case of emergencies. And then we can also have a pair of event controllers on the back to manage the power and the reserve batteries. We'll set that system up later on. And then we can have a defensive AI block in there for our AI programming and also to have our weapons automatically activate if a bad guy happens to turn up. Right, I'm going to get these bits welded up and then we'll carry on with some more of the control systems. There we go, that is the new redesigned back tail, or at least the internal parts of it. Right then, that is the rest of the armour on the newly redesigned pod. Right, so we've got our battery, we've got our hydrogen engine, we've got our AI defense block, and we've got our docking connector. Right, let's sort out the drive controls next. And then for our left and right steering, we're going to need a few more thrusters. I'll squeeze some in there, I think. And there we go, that's our extra control thrusters sorted out. Right, I think we have everything we need to set up these drive controls now. And we are actually going to need a few more things. I'm going to need a light to act as a switch to swap between drive mode and walk mode. And I'm probably going to need one to turn the weapons on and off as well. So let's build 2 more of them. Okay then, so what I need to do before I even think about setting the drive control is I need to make a switch that will swap between walk mode and drive mode. So I've got an event controller, which I'm going to set to block switched on and off, and I'm going to use one of those lights that I've just built to work as the switch to turn it all on and off. So we will add the control mode light, and then go to select actions. Right, well the first thing we're going to do with this controller then is when the light turns on, we are going to turn the walk controls off, because I want the light to indicate that the drive mode is active. So we'll turn the walk controllers off and on, and then we'll turn the drive controllers on and off. And we will also have the steering thrusters turn on and off. And now if I cycle that light on and off again, there we go. The thrusters are active, but the walk cycle is deactivated. And if I turn the light off again, the walk cycle activates again. Right, awesome, that works how it's supposed to. Right, let's activate the drive mode again, and now we can set up the controls for it. Okay, so another thing that we need to set up for our drive mode is when I activate it, I need the rotors and the legs to move the wheels around into a nice straight line so it can actually drive. So with the left leg rotors, we are going to set the velocity to -10 for now when it turns on, and when it turns off, we'll set it to 10. And we'll do the opposite with the right leg, so 10 RPM and -10 RPM. Right, there we go, that moves them into position. I might make them move a little bit quicker though. Okay, so now drive mode is activated and our wheels are all pointing in a nice straight line. Let's set up these drive controls. Okay then, now that we've got the switch between walk mode and drive mode set up, we can now finally start programming these drive controls that we built earlier. So I think we'll start with our forward drive control. So we will set that to detect thruster output. Put it more than 50% for now. And we'll use that forward thruster. And when the forward thruster fires, the first thing the controller is going to do is it's going to turn off the reverse controller, and then turn it back on again. And then we will set all of the suspension blocks to increase their proportion to 100%. And when the thruster stops firing, we will reset that back to 0 again. And now when I hit the forward thruster, it should trigger the wheels. Yeah, there we go. And when I let go of the thruster, it stops the wheels as well. Right, fantastic. Let's set up the reverse controls. So our reverse drive controls are going to be more or less exactly the same as the forward controls. Thrust override, greater than 50. We'll use the reverse thruster. We'll turn off and turn on the forward drive controls. And we will set proportion override to -100 and 0. So if I hit the reverse thruster, we should be driving backwards, and if I hit the forward thruster, we should be driving forwards. Right, let's do the steering controls next. Okay then, left and right controls. Pretty much the same as forwards and backwards controls. Thruster greater than 50%. We will use the left control thruster for this one. And when the left controller is triggered, it will turn off the right controller. And then we should be able to set the steer override to -100. And then reset it back to 0. There we go. All the wheels are turning left. So I'll be able to strafe from left to right, hopefully. And if we do the same with the right controller, we'll have it set to thrust percentage, 50%, right thruster, left can be turned on and off, and then suspension override on the steering can be set to 100 and 0. So now we should be able to steer left and steer right, drive forwards, drive backwards. Right, now I also want to build a handbrake control, and for that I'm going to need another set of thrusters, so I might stick some in this little gap here. Take that spotlight off, rebuild that in a minute. So if I have one thruster there, and another thruster there. So we'll have one thruster to control the brake, and one thruster as an override, so it doesn't interfere with the AI controls that I'm going to set up later. Oh yeah, and I need to rebuild that little spotlight. We're also going to need a light for this brake system, so I think I'm going to stick one right on the back of the Mech. There we go, that'll do. Right, we should have all the bits and pieces we need to set this up now. Right, for this brake system, we are going to have two different event controllers. One to actually turn the thing on and off, and another one so that I can trigger it using the vertical thruster. So we will set up the main control first. That will be block switched on and off. The trigger will be the brake light. And when the brake light turns on, we will turn the handbrake signal on. And when the brake light turns off, we will turn the handbrake signal on and off again. So if I turn on the brake light and try and use the drive controls, nothing happens. If I turn the brake light off again, I can drive again. There we go. So the brake light control is working. And for the manual control, we are going to set this up like the drive controls. So it'll be thruster greater than 50%. we are going to use the brake control thruster, and when that thruster fires, it will turn the brake light on and off. So if I'm driving and I press the space bar, it now stops the wheels by turning that light on and off. Fantastic. I now have a handbrake control and a parking brake control. Okay, so I now need to add some of those brake controls into the walk, drive, switch mode controls. So if I add that brake controller to the drive control group, and if I add the brake thrusters to the steering thruster control group, I should be able to deactivate walk mode and turn off all the things that I don't need. And if I turn it back on again, it should activate all the things I do need. There we go. Lovely. So, looks like we can now comfortably switch between walk mode and drive mode. Right then, next we need to sort out these arms. I need to finish doing the armouring on them, and then I need to program them and set them up and automate them so they can actually be used. And then I need to go and get some magnesium so I can actually make some ammo for them too. That would probably be handy. Right then, that doesn't look too bad. Get this welded up and then we can get programming. There we go, that's the arms all armoured up. Nice. Right, let's get programming them. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly whiz through and set up all the control units for these arms. So then, each arm uses a pair of torque controllers. One for the top half of the arm, one for the bottom half of the arm. The bottom half of the arm has the gun equipped to it, so we don't get conflict from two controllers at once. But both controllers use the same camera as their targeting reference, so they're both always trying to aim at the same thing. So now that we've got those all set up, I have activated their AI, and they are now trying to aim at me. Fantastic. So the AI does indeed work. We just need to make a few little tweaks to the rotor and hinge limits, I think. That's good, I'm happy with that. The AI works. Okay, so now we can set up some controls to turn the weapons on and off. So if we go to our weapons on and off controller, set it to block switched on and off. We are going to use the weapons active light as the trigger, so when we turn that light on and off, it turns the weapons on and off. So the first thing we're going to do when we turn this light on is turn the arm control units on and off. We'll turn the AI on and off, and we will turn the arm weapons group, which is just the cameras, the lights and the guns themselves. We'll turn them on and off too. And we will also have the arm targeting lights. Change their colour to cyan when they turn on. And we can change to orange when they turn off. And when the weapon system turns on, we will reset the velocity on the arm hinges, and when it turns off again, we will set the velocity to 5 RPM, so the arms start to reset themselves back to a default position. And then we'll do something similar with the arm rotors as well. So the left arm rotor, we will reset the velocity on that, set the velocity to -5. And for the right arm, we will do the same thing. We will reset the velocity, and we'll set the velocity to +5. So if I turn the weapon light off, yep, there we go, the arms reset to a nice default position. Awesome. And I'm also going to set up the control units for the arms that have the weapons equipped to change the colours of their targeting lights when they've got a target locked. So, left arm, when it targets something, will change to red, and when it loses target, it will change back to cyan. And we'll do the same thing with the right arm as well. So, red and cyan. And I've also added a colour change for the light in the on-off function, so when it turns on, it turns cyan, and when it turns off, it goes back to orange. So turn that on, let's check that AI. There we go, when it's targeting me, it turns red. But I do think I need to tweak some of the settings on the arms a little bit. And one last quick little thing that I want to set up before I go off on a little trip for some magnesium is some cruise control. So I've got another light that I'm going to turn on and off. I've got an event controller that is going to be triggered by that light turning on and off. And when that light turns on, all it's going to do is set the override on the forward thruster to 100%. And when it turns off, it's going to set it back to 0. So if I stick the cruise control light on my hotbar, turn it off, and turn it on, it now makes the mech auto walk. If I swap it to drive mode, it makes it auto drive. Right, there we go. Auto walk on, auto walk off. Okay, well I think he's in a decent position now. Let's get him back down and let's go and grab some of that magnesium that we found earlier. So we can walk forwards. And we can drive as well. And we can brake and we can slow down when we need to. Where's that magnesium? 78 meters that way. Oh, it's right there. Right. Let's leave the parking brake on so it doesn't roll away on us. There we go. Finally got some magnesium. I'll have bullets in no time.
Inventory full.
Right, we'll take that last little haul of magnesium and then we'll head back to base. Looks like our power situation is starting to run low. Now that we've got that mech on charge and we've got lots of things refining and being produced, I think I need to build another wind tower. So, what can we do about that? Okay, we'll give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks of space. Hopefully that'll be enough, but it shouldn't conflict with the other wind tower. And then we're going to have to build ourselves another tower and walkway to get all the way up there. Well then, that's the basis of another wind tower setup. I just need to weld the thing together. Right then, that is the secondary wind turbine up and running. Now we just need to weld up the rest of the tower. Right then, that is the second wind tower up and running and hopefully generating a bit of power. Let's go and have a look and see what kind of effect it's having on the battery. Well, it certainly seems to have increased our power input, although it's not quite balancing out yet. We might need a third tower. Right, and seeing as we've got the resources now, I thought I would make myself some better equipment. So I've got myself an enhanced grinder, a drill, a welder, a better rifle, some ammo, and some ammunition for my mech. So let's go and load him up with some bits. Okay then, well I have filled him full of ammo, so let's detach him again. Get that arm out of the way. We can give these arms a little bit of a test on these blocks that I've set up here. Okay, so I've set up a little target, and if I activate my AI arms. There we go. I can lock targets and fire pretty well. And then, the guns work. The ammo can get fed into it. And the AI works nicely. Well then, that was another successful day on this alien world. We finally got our first mech up and running. And we've got ourselves a healthy little supply of ammunition to defend ourselves from anything we might encounter. So I think tomorrow I am going to come back and I am going to start exploring around the area and see if there's anything I can find.